Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are taking a look at the NECA Pacific Rim Wave 6 Reactor Blast Gipsy Danger. This is yet another new Gipsy Danger figure with some retooling to make it specific to the end battle from Pacific Rim. The overall base of this figure is the Gipsy Danger 2.0 body, so it does use the more articulated and better detailed body that we've seen with recent releases of this character. And by seeing it called Reactor Blast, I was actually a little confused. I thought this was more of a direct sequel, I guess you could say, to the Hong Kong Brawl Gipsy Danger, because I really remembered the Reactor Blast happening when Gypsy's plummeting out of the sky after fighting Otachi. But the other time they use it is at the very end of the film, taking out Slattern, so I guess it made sense to include that accessory here. And the Reactor Blast piece itself is a pretty nicely done accessory. I really like the paint in it. It goes from a dark orange, translucent, up to a lighter, almost yellowy orange at the tip. There's a nice swirl sculpted into it. You can see here at the back, there's a swirl pattern that matches the reactor on Gypsy, and there is a little notch taken out of the top. This version of Gipsy Danger features a newly tooled torso. So the reactor here is designed specifically to hold that blast. We can see it up here at the top. There's a little tab that will help hold it in place. And if we compare it side by side with one of the previous releases of Gipsy Danger, you can see the reactor is actually a little bit further recessed, allowing the accessory to fit in there a little better. But you find the little notch, you line it up with the peg at the top, and the reactor blast will peg right in there, and it's pretty darn secure. You don't really have to worry about this falling out on you unless you really toss the figure around. Gypsy also comes with one of her swords, and it's really nicely done here. Same kind of sword we've gotten before with the 2.0 body, where it's actually closed up on the sides and not the weird open version we got originally. Just like any of the figures, above the wrist here, there's a slot, and the blade will just peg right in there. Makes a pretty secure fit. And now we have the chain sword coming out of Gypsy's arm. If you have any of the previous two Gipsy Danger 2.0 figures, there's a lot of similar pieces on here, a lot of things you've already seen, but there's also some new stuff that's definitely worth looking at. Overall, I will say the paint on this figure is really well done. It's a darker shade of blue, very similar to the Anchorage Attack version of Gipsy Danger. If we bring in the Hong Kong Brawl version, which is a much cleaner blue, I definitely prefer this darker shade on the new figure. I think it looks a lot more robotic and a lot more movie accurate, not quite as cartoony. Though it is easy enough to say this is a nice, clean, fresh out of the gate Gypsy, and this is a very beat up version. The head sculpt here is the same that we've gotten with the Hong Kong Brawl Gypsy, but I love the amount of detail they've put in here. All the little vents around the mouth, the little lines going through the head, the nice shade of metallic gold for the visor. I think it's just very well done. You of course get the neck guard coming up around the back, two shoulder pieces with the detailed in little white piece. It's supposed to represent the light. Nice mechanical detail on the underside of that as well. The chest here is completely resculpted, which had to be done for this version of the figure, but we have this one shoulder here. Gypsy's right shoulder is all torn up. This is different than the Anchorage Attack. The Anchorage Attack left the torso mostly intact around the broken arm. Here we see a lot of nice scarring and cool detail around here. I really like how this came out. The arm piece here, where it's torn away, is actually the exact same one we got on the Anchorage Attack version. It's just put on the opposite side of the figure, so it looks a little different just by being, I guess, backwards, I guess you could call it. But we have all the wires hanging down, little red tips to them like they're burning or anything like that. The other side of the body, we have cut up here right above the reactor. A lot of nice dirty paint effects going on through this. I already mentioned the reactor being a bit recessed. And the paint on here is a little bolder than I've seen on other versions and a little glossier. So it's definitely a bit of a different reactor look than previous versions of Gypsy, but it works all right. Over on the more intact arm, we have the big shoulder pauldron. All the same nice mechanical detail we've come to expect through the arm on this figure. Looking very nice. And the only hand it comes with is this closed fist. Mid-torso, similar to what we've seen before, but a lot of nice panel lines in here, nice detailing and nice paint. Coming around to the back, a lot of wear and tear up here on the back of the head, the vents here in the back, the spinal cord going through, and because this was a new sculpt, they actually did some battle damage here on the boosters and on the vent, which is really nice attention to detail. I could have seen them just doing the minimum amount of changes they needed to do for this figure, but they actually did go above and beyond and put some more battle damage on the back here, which is great. Very similar rear torso, and one thing I have noticed with comparing this to the the Anchorage Attack version is that we'll see in the lower body there's some scratch marks, like here on the butt. These are consistent with the Anchorage Attack version, so they must be sculpted in. They don't really feel like they're sculpted very deep, but they must be sculpted just enough. But they kept the same scrape marks consistent between versions of Gipsy. Up here on the legs, we have the really nice pistons that kind of hide over the joint here. High upper leg section with all the nice panel lines. Some more scratches going through the front of this one leg. And another new feature here is the knee. They replaced not just the joint, but this plastic piece around the base of the joint, making it look really torn up and chewed up, which is movie accurate, and I really like the look of this. It's very cool looking. Nice detail going down the rest of the leg. Of course, Gipsy's big foot there. Similar detail on the other side. This knee is clean, so you can make a nice comparison. They even went so far as to take these little fins that come off the back of the knee and have it chewed up on this side. So I really like the attention to detail on the knee. Coming around the back, we get more pistons, we get more scratch marks on there. Just a lot of very, very nice mechanical detailing throughout. For articulation, being the 2.0 body, this is pretty well done. We do have a ball joint at the base of the neck. Don't get a whole lot of motion out of it just because of the way Gipsy's head is designed. And you kind of have to get your fingers in there at kind of an awkward angle. But you can move forward and back a little bit. You can turn side to side and you can tilt a little bit. Not a ton, but enough if you want to get a specific pose. At the mid-torso, we also have a ball joint. Very stiff on this figure, but you can move a little bit forward and back with it and rotate side to side and tilt a little bit out of it. The damaged arm is just on a ball joint, so it can move forward and back, side to side. Not a whole lot of range of motion, but you could also just get that looking however you want it. Same ball joint over on the other side, but we actually have an arm attached to it, so you can go forward, back, all that good stuff. The shoulder pauldron is actually kind of articulated, so you can get it out of your way. We have a bicep swivel. We have a single joint at the elbow, and we could take this little piece here on the arm, push that up and get a little further bend out of the arm, getting almost a full 90 degrees. Of course, that piece will hinder it if it's down. There's a ball joint at the base of the elbow, so it does give you kind of a weird extra bit of articulation, as well as the ability to swivel a little bit. This also would give you the ability to swap it out for the laser cannon. We get the fist on a ball joint here, so you can spin side to side as well as move a little bit in and out. The legs will move pretty far forward, pretty far back, and just a little bit out to the side. We do have an upper leg swivel. We have a very nice double jointed knee on Gipsy. The foot is on a ball joint. We got a little bit of side-to-side pivot. We could swivel, move a little bit forward and back, and then we have a very nice toe joint right there. And here we have our 3 Gipsy 2.0 figures in a row. On the left, the Anchorage Attack. In the middle, this one, the Reactor Blast. And on the right, the Hong Kong Brawl version. And I definitely think the two most recent, the Anchorage Attack and the Reactor Blast, match a lot better. The Reactor Blast actually has the darkest paint of the 3, at least in my case here. And Hong Kong Brawl definitely being a much lighter shade of blue. But I feel like they work really well together. Of course, we do have the interchangeable items like the hands and the cannon, so you can really kind of customize your version of Gipsy. So which version you want to get probably just up to which version you prefer in the movie. And here's Reactor Blast Gipsy next to Scunner. Now I do have Scunner kind of hunched over a little bit just so he'll stand a bit better, but we could see they are in decent scale with one another. I feel like Scunner should be just a little bit taller maybe. But as of this moment, this is the only end battle kaiju we have to put this Gipsy next to, and I'm hoping that will change soon enough. So overall, this is another Gipsy Danger figure. And I know some people probably aren't going to be too happy about that because we've gotten quite a few by this point. I believe this is number 5 or 6, depending on how you want to count it or if you count the SDCC exclusive. So it's definitely not going to be a figure for everyone. But I think it's overall a pretty solid figure. Now, I don't think I'm ever going to display it with the Reactor Blast gimmick, and it actually kind of disappoints me that the chest is redesigned and a little weirdly shaped just to fit that piece, and that the Reactor Blast attachment is never going to work with any of my other Gipsy Danger figures. I kind of would like to be able to put it on the Hong Kong Brawl version to have it trying to save itself while it's falling to the earth after fighting Otachi. I think I would definitely prefer this one, kind of in a similar pose, maybe a little more refined to what I have it in right now, simulating it digging its sword into the ground after Striker Eureka detonates in the final battle, and it's trying to keep itself from being blown away. But this figure does have a lot of great detail in it. And if you haven't already picked up one of the new Gipsy Danger figures, this is definitely not a bad entry point. I think if I had to rank the new Gypsies, it would probably put this one as my number 2 pick. The Anchorage Attack would be a slight number 1, though it does have some flaws of its own. And still a fantastic figure. The Hong Kong Brawl would just be at the bottom of that list just because it's less visually interesting than these torn up versions, at least to me. So this figure does get a very solid recommendation. It really makes me hope that NECA is looking to put out Slattern and Raiju so that we can have more of the final battle kaiju for this version of Gypsy to go up against, especially because the Reactor Blast is used to take out Slattern. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below, and until next time, so they're Outside the Box Reviews, stay tuned for more to come.